My drama-obsessed mother-in-law stood up in the middle of my wedding and said, "I object." The church went silent. My fiancé, Devin, froze at the altar. His mother, Beatrice, stood in the third row wearing white, pointing at me like I'd committed murder. This woman is a fraud. She's been lying to my son for 3 years. My stomach dropped. Devin turned to me, confused. What is she talking about? Beatrice pulled out her phone, hands shaking with theatrical fury. I hired a private investigator. Her husband, Leonard, reluctantly stood holding a manila folder. Devin, your fiancé isn't who she claims to be. The thing is, she was right. 3 years ago, I'd told Devin I graduated from Northwestern with a marketing degree. The truth? I dropped out junior year when my dad got sick. I spent 2 years working 3 jobs to cover his medical bills. When Dad died, I was $40,000 in debt with half a degree. I met Devin at a networking event I'd crashed. When he asked where I went to school, I panicked and said Northwestern. One lie led to another. Beatrice had always hated me. She'd grilled me about my parents' professions, why my family wasn't more involved in wedding planning. Mom was working double shifts at the hospital. My brother couldn't get time off. To Beatrice, that made us trash. She fabricated her entire education, Beatrice announced, waving papers. No degree, nothing. She lied to infiltrate our family. Devin's face went pale. Is this true? I wanted to run. The bridesmaids behind me shifted uncomfortably. My mom stood up from her seat looking stricken. Don't you sweetheart her, Beatrice snapped. Your daughter is a con artist. She's drowning in debt. She probably targeted Devin for his money. Something inside me snapped. I'd spent 3 years bending over backward for this woman, attending her exhausting charity luncheons, enduring her criticisms about my clothes, my career, my family. You're right, I said, voice steady. I lied about graduating. I dropped out to take care of my dying father. I worked as a waitress, a cleaning lady, doing freelance design to pay his medical bills. I turned to Devin. I should have told you. I was ashamed, but I never asked you for money. Not once. Oh, please, Beatrice scoffed. But here's what you don't know, I interrupted, pulling out my phone. While your PI was digging into my finances, I did some research too. Devin looked confused. Beatrice's expression faltered. Your husband, Leonard? He's been embezzling from your family's company for 6 years. The room erupted. Leonard went white. Beatrice grabbed his arm. That's absurd. I work in accounts receivable at Rothman Industries, your family's biggest competitor. 3 months ago, I noticed unusual transactions. Leonard's been funneling money through shell corporations. $3.2 million so far. I looked at Devin. I tried to tell you last month, but you said I was being paranoid. Devin stared at his father. Dad? Leonard's folder slipped from his hands. Beatrice clutched her pearls. My mom began crying. The priest looked like he wanted to disappear. You're lying, Beatrice hissed. I have documentation, bank records, transfer receipts. I was going to show Devin after the honeymoon, but since we're airing everyone's secrets today. Enough. Devin's voice cut through the chaos. He looked at me, then his parents, then back. Everyone out, now. Guests shuffled toward exits. Within minutes, only 5 of us remained. Me, Devin, his parents, and the priest praying quietly in the corner. Devin's hands were shaking. Someone better start telling me the truth. All of it. Right now. I opened my mouth, but Beatrice lunged forward, grabbing Devin's arm. Don't listen to her. She's manipulating you. That's when Leonard spoke for the first time. His voice was barely a whisper. She's right. About all of it. The folder hit the marble floor with a slap that echoed through the empty church. Papers scattered everywhere. Bank statements, wire transfer receipts, corporate documents with Leonard's signature forged across the bottom. Beatrice's face drained of all color. Leonard? What are you talking about? I've been stealing from the company for 6 years, he said, voice hollow. Started small, a few thousand here and there. Then it spiraled. Devin backed away from both his parents like they'd become strangers. Why? Leonard's laugh was bitter. Your mother's lifestyle, the country club, the designer clothes, the vacation home in Aspen, the charity galas where she needs a new gown every month. He turned to Beatrice. You spent $47,000 on this wedding alone. Money I don't have. The company has money, Beatrice started. The company is hemorrhaging money because I've been draining it to keep you happy. Leonard's voice rose. Do you know how much pressure I've been under? Your constant demands? Your obsession with appearances? Don't you dare blame me for your crimes, Beatrice hissed. I stood frozen, watching their marriage implode in real time. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part felt sick. Devin's voice was dangerously quiet. How much have you stolen, Dad? $3.2 million, give or take. The number hung in the air. Devin swayed slightly. I reached for his arm, but he pulled away. And you? He turned to me. You've been lying about your degree for 3 years. 3 years of building a life together on a foundation of lies. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. His eyes were red, but no tears fell. My mom was right about one thing. You are a fraud. The words hit harder than I expected. Devin, please. Did you ever actually love me? Or was this whole thing about landing someone who could fix your financial problems? That's not fair. Fair? He laughed, a harsh sound. Nothing about this is fair. I'm standing in a church on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, finding out everyone I trusted has been lying to me. Beatrice tried to touch his shoulder. Sweetheart, we can fix this. Your father made mistakes, but don't. Devin jerked away. Don't you dare try to spin this. You hired a PI to investigate my fiancé. You stood up in the middle of our wedding to humiliate her in front of everyone we know. You wore white to my wedding. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to control me, like you've controlled me my entire life, choosing my schools, my major, my friends, my career path. And when I finally chose something for myself, chose her, you couldn't stand it. Tears started down Beatrice's face, but they looked performative. I'm your mother. I only want what's best for you. If you wanted what was best for me, you would have talked to me privately. Instead, you turned my wedding into your personal theater production. The priest cleared his throat. Perhaps I should go. Stay, Devin said. I want a witness to this. My mom was still standing near the back of the church, unsure whether to approach. I caught her eye. She looked devastated. Leonard sat down heavily in the front pew. Son, I know I messed up, but I can fix this. I can return the money. With what? Devin demanded. You just said you're broke. I have assets. The lake house, my boat, some investments. Those are in my name, Beatrice interrupted. You transferred them to me for tax purposes, remember? The look Leonard gave his wife was pure hatred. Of course. You made sure everything was protected in your name while I took all the risks. I didn't know you were stealing. You didn't ask questions. All those years I kept saying we needed to cut back, and you kept spending. You knew something was wrong. You just didn't care as long as you got what you wanted. Devin ran his hands through his hair, messing up the careful styling we'd paid $200 for. I can't do this right now. I can't stand here and watch you two tear each other apart. He started walking toward the exit. I followed. Devin, wait, don't. He stopped but didn't turn around. I need space. From all of you. Please. Let me explain everything. You've had 3 years to explain. You chose not to. He pushed open the heavy wooden doors. Sunlight flooded in, harsh and unforgiving. I'm going somewhere to think. Alone. What about the reception? The guests? Cancel it. Keep the deposits. I don't care. He walked out. I stood in the doorway, watching him get into his car and drive away. My wedding dress suddenly felt impossibly heavy. Behind me, Beatrice and Leonard were still arguing. The priest had finally escaped. My mom approached cautiously. Honey? I turned to her and finally let myself cry. She wrapped her arms around me and I sobbed into her shoulder like I was 5 years old again. I ruined everything, I choked out. No, baby. You made a mistake. That's different. He hates me. He's hurt. There's a difference. Behind us, Beatrice's voice rose to a shriek. 28 years of marriage, Leonard. 28 years? And this is how you repay me? Repay you? You've spent our entire marriage treating me like your personal ATM. My mom gently guided me away from the chaos. Let's get you out of this dress and somewhere quiet. We can figure out the rest later. We drove to her apartment in silence. She helped me out of the gown, careful with all the tiny buttons. Underneath, I wore white silk lingerie I'd bought specially for a wedding night that would never happen. I changed into sweatpants and one of my dad's old shirts that Mom still kept. It smelled like laundry detergent and memory. You want to talk about it? Mom asked, making tea neither of us would drink. I don't know where to start. Start with why you lied. So I did. I told her everything. About meeting Devin at that networking event where I'd snuck in using a borrowed alumni pass. About the conversation where he asked where I went to school, and how I panicked and said Northwestern because that's where his sister had gone, and I knew it would give us common ground. I was going to tell him, I said. After we'd been dating a month, then 2 months, then 6. But by then, I'd already met his family. His parents treated me differently because they thought I came from the same world they did. If I told the truth, I'd become the charity case his mom always suspected I was. So you kept lying. I kept lying. I stared at my hand. My engagement ring felt like it weighed 50 pounds, and I justified it by telling myself the lie wasn't hurting anyone. I was still me, still the same person he'd fallen in love with. The degree didn't matter, but it did matter, Mom said gently. Not because of the education itself, because of the dishonesty. I know. Fresh tears started. I know that now. But I was so ashamed, Mom. I dropped out to take care of Dad. I spent 2 years watching him die slowly. I maxed out credit cards for his medications. I worked overnight shifts and came home to find him unconscious on the bathroom floor. And when he finally died, I had nothing. No degree, no savings, just debt and grief. Mom reached across the table and gripped my hand. Your father would be devastated to know you felt ashamed about taking care of him. I'm not ashamed I took care of him. I'm ashamed I couldn't do both. Couldn't be a good daughter and finish school. Couldn't keep it all together. Nobody could have done what you did and kept it all together. You were 21 years old, baby. You did the best you could. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, the sun was setting. Somewhere, there was a reception venue with 150 place settings that would go unused, flowers that would wilt, a cake that would be thrown away. My phone started buzzing. I'd turned off notifications, but the calls kept coming. My brother, my college friends who'd been bridesmaids, Devin's cousin who'd always been kind to me. I ignored them all except one, an unknown number. Hello? Is this the bride? A woman's voice, professional, was going to be. I'm calling from the Grandview Hotel. We have your reception scheduled for 6 p.m. We've received word there's been a cancellation, but we need to confirm, yes, cancel everything. I'm sorry to hear that. We'll process the cancellation. Your deposit was $4,000, which per the contract is non-refundable. I know. I hung up. $4,000 down the drain. Money I'd saved for months. Money I didn't really have. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. This is Leonard. We need to talk. Meet me at Rosewood Cafe tomorrow at 10 a.m. Alone. Don't tell Devin. I showed my mom. She frowned. What do you think he wants? No idea. Probably to make sure I'm not actually going to report him. Are you? I thought about it. I should. What he did is illegal, but if I report him, it destroys Devin's family company, puts innocent people out of work, and Devin would never forgive me for that on top of everything else. You don't owe these people anything, Moms. Not after how they treated you. I don't owe them anything, but I still love Devin. Even after what he said to you today, he was hurt. He lashed out. I don't blame him for that. Mom looked at with sad eyes. You're more forgiving than I would be. I went to bed early, but sleep wouldn't come. I kept replaying the moment Leonard confessed. The look on Devin's face. The way he couldn't even look at me when he walked out. Around midnight, my phone rang. Devin. Hello? Silence on the other end. Then, did you really find evidence of my dad's embezzlement? Yes. Why didn't you tell me immediately? Why wait? I tried to tell you. Remember that night last month when I said I needed to talk to you about something important? You said you were too stressed with wedding planning and we'd talk later. More silence. I remember. I was going to show you everything after the honeymoon. I had it all organized in a folder. Documents, transaction records, everything. I wasn't trying to use it as leverage or anything dramatic. I just knew it would devastate you, and I wanted us to have a few happy days first before dealing with it. Why didn't you just make me listen? Because you asked me not to, and I respected that. He exhaled slowly. Where are you? My mom's apartment. Can I come over? I looked at the clock. 12:17 a.m. Now? I've been driving for 8 hours. I need to see you. Devin, please. I gave him the address, then went to splash cold water on my face and tried to make myself look less like I'd been crying for 6 hours straight. Failed completely. He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his tuxedo with the tie gone and the shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He looked exhausted. Mom tactfully disappeared into her bedroom. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the space between us feeling infinite. I'm sorry, he said, for what I said in the church. You're not a fraud. Yes, I am. I lied to you for 3 years. About a degree. Not about who you are. Not about your feelings for me, right? I met his eyes. Never about that. Never. Then help me understand. Walk me through everything. How you ended up in so much debt. Why you felt like you couldn't tell me. All of it. So I did. Starting from the beginning. I told him about my dad's diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, discovered too late. About how the treatment options were limited but expensive. About how insurance covered some things but not others. About the experimental trials that might have bought him more time but cost thousands out of pocket. I was 21, I said. My brother was only 18, still in high school. Mom was barely holding it together. Someone had to step up. Devin listened without interrupting. I took a leave of absence from school, meant to go back after a semester, but Dad's condition got worse. The medical bills kept coming. I worked 3 jobs, waitressing during the day, cleaning offices at night, and freelance graphic design whenever I could find clients. I slept maybe 4 hours a night. For how long? 2 years. By the time Dad died, I'd missed 4 semesters. My financial aid was gone. I owed the school money. I owed hospitals. I owed credit card companies. The debt was $40,000, and I had no degree to show for it. Why didn't you go back and finish? I tried. I met with academic advisors, looked into student loans, but I was already so far in debt, and I'd need to take out at least another $30,000 to finish my last year. The math didn't work. I couldn't afford to go further into debt on the hope that I'd get a good enough job to pay it all back. So you just gave up on your degree? I gave up on the piece of paper, not on learning. I taught myself everything I needed for marketing, read textbooks, took free online courses, built a portfolio, and I was good at it. Am good at it. The work I do at Rothman Industries, I earned that position. They didn't hire me because of Northwestern. They hired me because I showed them what I could do. Devin ran his hands over his face. But you told me you graduated. I know, and that was wrong. But you have to understand. When we met, you talked about your family, your parents' expectations, your mom's obsession with pedigree and status. You mentioned how you dated someone from a lesser school, and your mom had made her life hell until she broke up with you. That was different. Was it? Be honest. If I'd told you on our first date that I was a college dropout working 3 jobs to pay off medical debt, would we be sitting here right now? He started to answer, then stopped. I don't know. I do. Your mom would have poisoned you against me from the start. She would have called me a gold digger, said I was beneath you. And maybe you would have resisted for a while, but eventually the constant pressure would have worn you down. You don't know that, don't I? Look at what she did today. She hired a PI. She stood up in the middle of our wedding. She wore white, Devin, to her son's wedding. She's been trying to sabotage us from day one, because you were lying to us from day one. The words stung, but they were true. You're right. I lied. And I'm sorry. But your mom's hatred of me started before she had any reason to suspect I was lying. It started because I didn't come from money, because my family isn't connected, because I'm not the society wife she envisioned for you. Devin stood and walked to the window. My dad stole over $3 million. The subject change was jarring. I know. He blamed my mom for it. Said her spending forced his hand. People always blame others for their own choices. Is that what you're doing? Blaming my family for your decision to lie? No, I'm owning my choice. But I'm also saying the environment your family created made the truth feel impossible. He turned back to me. Show me the evidence. The embezzlement files. I hesitated. Devin, show me. I got my laptop from my bag, pulled up the folder I'd been compiling for 3 months. Spreadsheets, bank records, wire transfers to shell corporations. I'd color-coded everything, cross-referenced dates, built a timeline that made the pattern undeniable. Devin studied it all in silence. The longer he looked, the more his expression darkened. How did you find this? I cross-referenced vendor payments at Rothman Industries. Part of my job is catching irregularities. One day, I noticed some unusual charges to a company called Halcyon Consulting. The name felt familiar, so I looked into it. Turned out Halcyon was one of your family's regular vendors. Why would that matter? Because the invoices didn't make sense. Halcyon was supposedly providing business consulting, but the charges were irregular. Some months nothing, other months $40,000 or $50,000. And the services described were vague. So you investigated my family's company. I investigated a suspicious vendor that happened to be working with your family's company. I wasn't trying to dig up dirt. I was trying to understand why Rothman Industries was paying a consulting firm that didn't seem to do any actual consulting. And it turned out Halcyon Consulting is a shell corporation your dad set up 6 years ago. The address is a mail forwarding service in Delaware. There's no actual business. He invoices his own company for fake consulting services, then the money goes to accounts he controls. Devin scrolled through more documents. He's been doing this for 6 years? At least. Could be longer, but I only have access to the last 6 years of vendor records. Jesus Christ. He closed the laptop. What am I supposed to do with this? That's up to you. If I report it, he goes to prison. My family's company collapses. Employees lose their jobs. My mom... He stopped. God, my mom. She has no idea how bad this is, does she? I don't think so. Your dad's been juggling it all behind the scenes. She's going to lose everything. I didn't know what to say to that. It was probably true. Can I ask you something? Devin said. When you found this, why didn't you just let it go? It's not your responsibility to police my family's business. Because it's fraud. And because I knew if I married into your family while knowing about it, I'd be complicit. I couldn't do that. So you were planning to tell me? Yes, after the honeymoon. I had it all ready to present to you. I even drafted what I was going to say. Can I see it? I pulled up a notes file on my phone, handed it to him. He read it in silence. The note was 3 paragraphs, carefully worded to be factual and non-accusatory. It laid out what I'd found and suggested we consult with a lawyer about the best way to handle it. This is really thorough, he said quietly. I spent weeks drafting it, trying to figure out how to tell you something that would break your heart without making it sound like I was attacking your family. Why did you care about that? After how my mom's treated you? Because you love them, and I love you. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to protect you from being blindsided later when it all came crashing down. Devin set down the phone and pulled me into a hug. I was so surprised I froze for a moment before wrapping my arms around him. I'm sorry, he whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry for what I said in the church. You had every right to be angry, yes. Cruel, no. You're not a fraud. You're someone who made an impossible choice and got backed into a corner. He pulled back to look at me. I'm not saying I'm okay with the lying. I'm not. But I understand why it happened. And I understand why you felt like you couldn't tell me the truth. Relief flooded through me. So what do we do now? I don't know. I need to talk to my dad. Really talk to him, not just react. And we need to figure out what to do about the embezzlement. Whatever you decide, I support you. Even if I decide to report him, even then. He kissed my forehead. I love you. I should have said that first thing, before anything else. I love you too. We stayed on my mom's couch until dawn, talking through everything. He asked about my dad's illness, and I told him stories I'd never shared. He told me about growing up in his family, the pressure, and the expectation, and the constant surveillance. My mom has always been controlling, he admitted. I thought I'd escaped it by setting boundaries, but she was just getting better at subtle manipulation. What are you going to do about her? I don't know. She hired a PI to investigate you. She publicly humiliated you. Those aren't things I can just forgive. She's your mom. Being my mom doesn't give her the right to treat people I love like dirt. At 7 a.m., Mom emerged from her bedroom looking exhausted. You two work things out? We're getting there, Devin said. Good. You want breakfast? We ate scrambled eggs in companionable silence. When we finished, Devin checked his phone and grimaced. 17 missed calls from my mom. 12 from my dad. You going to call them back? Eventually. But first, I need to talk to a lawyer. Your family has lawyers. I need my own lawyer. Someone who represents me, not the company or my parents. He left around 9 a.m. to go home and shower. I stayed at Mom's, not ready to face my own apartment, and the life I'd been building there with Devin. My phone buzzed. A reminder about the text from Leonard. The cafe meeting at 10 a.m. I need to go somewhere, I told Mom. Where? To meet Leonard. Absolutely not. That man is a criminal. He asked me to meet him alone. I want to hear what he has to say. Take your brother with you, at least. My brother was working a construction job 2 hours away. I'll be fine. It's a public place. Mom didn't like it, but she didn't stop me. I changed into jeans and a sweater, one of my regular disguises for not being the almost bride everyone would recognize. Rosewood Cafe was a tiny place in a strip mall, the kind that served exactly 3 types of coffee and made everything fresh daily. Leonard was already there, looking 10 years older than he had yesterday. He'd aged overnight. I slid into the booth across from him. Why did you want to meet? To apologize. And to make you an offer. I'm listening. What I did was wrong. The embezzlement. I know that. But I need you to understand, you don't get to justify theft to me. I'm not justifying it. I'm explaining the context. Fine. Explain. He wrapped his hands around his coffee mug. My wife has incredibly expensive taste. Always has. When we married, I thought I was getting a life partner. What I got was a financial dependent with unlimited ambitions. That's between you and her. You're right. It is. But it led me to make catastrophic choices. And now those choices are about to destroy everything. What do you want from me? I want you to not report what you found. Give me 6 months to put the money back, and I'll turn myself into the board of directors. Resign quietly, no criminal charges, no scandal. Why would I agree to that? Because if you report me now, Devin's family company collapses. 37 people lose their jobs. My son's inheritance evaporates. His mother becomes destitute. You should have thought about that before you stole $3 million. I know, you're right, but I'm begging you anyway. Not for me, for Devin. I studied his face. The desperation was real. So was the shame. How do you plan to get $3 million in 6 months? I have assets, properties in my name that Beatrice doesn't know about, investments, a life insurance policy I can cash out. If I liquidate everything, I can cover most of it. Most isn't all. It's enough to keep the company afloat while I figure out the rest. And what happens after you confess to the board? Prison, probably. Financial ruin, definitely. But at least the company survives. And Devin doesn't have to watch his father get dragged through a public trial. I wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to march straight to the police and let justice happen. But I thought about Devin, about the weight he'd carry if his family's company collapsed because of his father's crimes and my discovery. I need to talk to Devin about this. No. Leonard's voice was sharp. If you tell Devin, he'll insist on reporting me immediately. He's too ethical to let this slide. That's not a bad thing. It's not. But it's not practical either. Please. I'm asking you for 6 months. That's all. 6 months to fix what I broke. And if you can't fix it in 6 months, then I turn myself in anyway. You have my word. Your word doesn't mean much to me right now. He flinched. Fair enough. Then I'll put it in writing. A signed confession with specific dates and timelines. If I don't follow through, you take it to the authorities. It was a terrible plan. Complicit in covering up a crime even temporarily. But I thought about the employees who would lose their jobs. The scandal that would destroy Devin's family. The weight of being the person who reported it all. I'll think about it, I said. I need an answer today. Then you'll have one today. I stood to leave. Wait. Leonard pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is for you. Call it an apology gift. I don't want your money. It's not money. Open it later. I took the envelope and left. Outside, I sat in my car and opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter on Beatrice's personal stationery. Dear future daughter-in-law, if you're reading this, you're about to marry my son. I'm writing this now, 3 weeks before the wedding, because I need you to know something I can never say to your face. I don't like you. I've never liked you. You come from nothing, you have nothing, and you're trying to take my son away from me. I've spent the last 3 years trying to find proof that you're a liar and a gold digger. Today, I finally succeeded. My private investigator confirmed you never graduated from Northwestern. You've been lying to Devin this entire time. I'm going to stand up at your wedding and expose you in front of everyone. I want you to know this wasn't a spontaneous decision. I've been planning this for weeks. I've been savoring the anticipation of watching you squirm. You might think I'm cruel. I think I'm a mother protecting her son. By the time you read this, your lies will be public knowledge, and my son will see you for what you really are. A fraud. A nobody. Someone who never deserved him. I hope you're humiliated. I hope you're destroyed. I hope you spend the rest of your life regretting the day you ever tried to social climb your way into my family. Regards, Beatrice. My hands were shaking by the time I finished reading. The date at the top was 3 weeks before the wedding. She'd written this almost a month ago. Had been sitting on the information, planning her dramatic reveal. I drove back to Mom's apartment in a daze. What happened? Mom asked when she saw my face. I handed her the letter. She read it twice. The second time, her hands were trembling with anger. That woman. That evil, spiteful woman. Leonard gave it to me. I don't know how he got it. He probably found it. Or she showed him. Doesn't matter. What matters is that she's been planning to humiliate you for weeks. This wasn't protective instinct. This was premeditated cruelty. I called Devin. We need to talk. Now. What's wrong? Your mother. I have something you need to see. He was at my mom's apartment within 20 minutes. I handed him the letter without explanation. I watched his face change as he read. From confusion, to shock, to fury. She wrote this 3 weeks ago. Yes. She was planning the whole thing. The objection. The public humiliation. All of it. Yes. He read it again as if looking for something that would make it less awful. I can't believe she would. He stopped. Actually, I can believe it. That's the worst part. This is exactly something she'd do. Your dad gave it to me this morning. I think he wanted me to know how toxic this situation has been. Where did you see my dad? I told him about the cafe meeting, about Leonard's plea for 6 months to fix his crimes, about the offer to resign quietly. Devin's expression hardened. He's trying to manipulate you. I know. You can't agree to that. It's obstruction of justice. I know that too. But I also know that if I report him, 37 people lose their jobs, your family's company collapses, and you inherit a scandal that follows you forever. Those are consequences of his choices, not yours. But they'd become your burden, and I love you too much to do that to you without at least discussing it first. Devin set down the letter, ran his hands through his hair. I don't know what to do. I'm so angry at both of them right now I can barely think straight. Then don't decide today. Let's take some time. Talk to a lawyer. Figure out our options. What about the wedding? The marriage? What about it? Do you still want to marry me? After everything that's happened? I reached for his hand. Yes. If you still want to marry me. I do. But not like this. Not with all these lies and secrets and complications hanging over us. Then we'll postpone. Take time to deal with everything else first. And when we're ready, when we can stand at an altar and mean every word we say without any lies between us, we'll get married then. He pulled me close. I love you. Even when everything is falling apart, I love you. I love you too. We spent the rest of the day calling vendors to cancel or postpone everything. The florist was understanding. The photographer less so. The venue took my deposit and my dignity. That evening, Devin went to his parents' house to confront them together. He asked me not to come. I need to handle this alone, he said. They're my family, my mess to clean up. You sure? No, but I need to try. He left around 6 p.m. By 9 p.m., I still hadn't heard from him. I texted twice. No response. At 10:30 p.m., my phone finally rang. Devin's voice was rough, like he'd been crying. It's done. What's done? I told them everything. How I feel about Mom's cruelty, about Dad's theft, about their marriage being a toxic disaster they've been inflicting on everyone around them for decades. How did they take it? Mom cried. Dad just sat there. Then they started arguing with each other, blaming each other. It got ugly fast. Where are you now? Sitting outside their house in my car. I can't go back in there. Can I come to you? Always. He arrived an hour later, looking destroyed. We didn't talk much, just held each other until we both fell asleep on Mom's couch. The next morning, Devin made a decision. I'm going to report my dad, not to the police, to the company's board of directors. They need to know what's been happening. They'll decide how to handle it from there. You sure? No, but it's the right thing to do. He called an emergency board meeting for that afternoon. I offered to go with him, but he refused. This is something I need to do on my own. The meeting lasted 4 hours. When Devin finally came home, he looked exhausted but lighter. They're launching a full investigation. Dad's been suspended without pay. They're bringing in forensic accountants to trace every dollar. What about criminal charges? That's up to them. The board wants to handle it internally if possible. But if the theft is as extensive as we think, they might not have a choice. How do you feel? Like I just blew up my family, but also like I did the only thing I could live with. Over the next few weeks, the investigation uncovered even more than I'd found. Leonard hadn't just stolen $3.2 million. He'd been doctoring the books to hide nearly $5 million in losses over 8 years. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy. The board terminated Leonard's employment and filed a civil lawsuit to recover the stolen funds. Criminal charges were pending, depending on what the district attorney decided. Beatrice filed for divorce. Then she tried to call Devin 17 times a day, alternating between sobbing apologies and vicious accusations. She keeps saying this is all your fault. Devin told me one night that if you hadn't found the embezzlement, none of this would have happened. She's right in a way. If I hadn't found it, maybe your dad would have kept getting away with it. Until the company collapsed entirely and everyone lost everything. At least this way, there's a chance to salvage something. The forensic accountants worked miracles. They managed to trace most of the stolen money to various accounts and properties. The board decided to sell off some company assets to cover the shortfall rather than let the whole thing implode. It was messy and painful, but the company survived, barely. Devin's relationship with his mother deteriorated completely. She blamed me for everything. Blamed Devin for betraying his family. Blamed Leonard for being caught. She'll never take responsibility for her part in this, Devin said. She's incapable of seeing how her behavior pushed Dad to desperate choices. That doesn't excuse what he did? No, but it provides context. My mom spent 30 years treating my dad like her personal servant, demanding more and more, never satisfied. Eventually, he broke. 6 months after the wedding, that wasn't. Devin and I went to City Hall with just our parents and my brother. No ceremony, no reception, no fancy dress. Just vows and signatures and a judge who'd processed 17 other couples that morning. Beatrice wasn't invited. She sent a venomous email calling me white trash who'd stolen her son. Devin blocked her number. A year later, we bought a small house in a modest neighborhood. Devin took a job at a different company, wanting distance from his family's scandal. I finally went back to school part-time, working on finishing my degree. Leonard was sentenced to 3 years in prison for embezzlement. He served 18 months before being released on parole. He moved to a different state and got a job as an accountant at a small firm. He sent Devin a letter apologizing and taking full responsibility. Devin never responded. Beatrice liquidated all her assets in the divorce and moved to Florida. She lives in a condo her sister bought and works part-time at a boutique. She still sends Devin birthday cards with passive-aggressive notes about how she misses her son. He hasn't seen her in 2 years. Sometimes I think about that day in the church, how everything could have been different if I'd just been honest from the start. If Beatrice hadn't been so cruel. If Leonard hadn't stolen millions. If Devin hadn't demanded the truth from everyone. But then I look at our life now. Modest but honest. Simple but happy. And I realize this is what we both needed. Not the fairy tale wedding, not the wealthy in-laws, not the perfect Instagram life. Just 2 people who chose each other despite all the messy, complicated, painful truth. Last month, I finally graduated with my degree. 4 years late, but I finished. Devin was in the audience with Mom and my brother, cheering louder than anyone else when I walked across the stage. After the ceremony, Devin handed me a small box. Inside was a simple silver necklace with a tiny pendant. When I looked closer, I realized it was a miniature of the Northwestern logo. So you can remember, he said. Not the lie, but what you sacrificed to take care of your dad, and how strong you were to survive it all. I started crying right there in the parking lot. I love you, he said. Not despite everything that happened, because of who you became by surviving it. Even though I lied, you made a mistake. You owned it. You faced the consequences. That's more than most people do. We drove home to our small house with the mortgage we could actually afford, ordered pizza because neither of us felt like cooking, and fell asleep on the couch watching bad reality TV. It wasn't the life I'd imagined when I first met Devin at that networking event 3 years ago. It was better, because it was real, and sometimes real is worth more than perfect.